Tonight I'm going to have an adventure because I am not very often in touch with high school students these days. And tonight I am going to be. And we're going to talk to young women who are organizers of the London, Ontario Fridays for the Future, or for future activities, which is better known maybe as the school strike for the climate. These people have had a wonderful weekend, I believe, on Friday, and I want to hear all about it, and I'm sure you do too. Okay, let me introduce Jen Langille first. Jen, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Hi, my name is Genevieve Langille, and I am a student climate activist, and I organize protests in London, Ontario, mostly relating to climate change and the climate crisis.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. All right. And now we have Jasmine McRorie.
Hi, I'm a grade 11 student in London, Ontario, who also works with these lovely ladies to create climate events within the city.
Mm-hmm. All right. Wonderful. And Freyja Moser?
Hi, I'm Freyja Moser, and I go to Beale, and I'm in grade 12, and I also help organize events with everyone else.
Good. Okay, and Audrey Hayden.
Hi, my name is Audrey. I'm a grade 9 at HB Beale, and I also work with all of these wonderful ladies to help protect our climate in London.
Mm-hmm. Well, blessings. It's wonderful, wonderful to be in touch with all of you, and I am their greatest admirers. So let me start off by asking Jen, are you sort of a ringleader in this, or are all four of you big organizers?
I'm not really a ringleader in any way. I think all of us are pretty much big organizers. Yeah, we all organize together, and it's more of a team effort than like anything that either of us controls. But we all have like certain roles, like not exactly. So for strikes, like certain people are like really like graphics and like creating like posters and stuff, and then other people like doing other things, like putting up other stuff. So that's sort of how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been having strikes every Friday, is that right, or just once in a while?
Yeah, so we've had strikes since April, which is around when Greta Thunberg started her strikes. And so those were originally started by our friend Mika, and Mika actually is now in university in the United Kingdom.
I see. How did things go on Friday? Tell me about the day. Where did you go? Where did you march? How many of your friends were there? Did you get much press coverage?
So we had in London, we're not exactly sure the estimate. It's hard to estimate for each city. So we had around somewhere from 1,500 to 3,000 people, somewhere in that range. The CTV News counted it at 3,000. We counted it at like 2,500 roughly, and it varies. There was like 1,500 people signed up on Facebook. So I think we got more than that, though, of course, because even we weren't signed up on Facebook.
Did you all meet in one place and march from that place to some other place? What was the situation?
Yeah, we all met at a corner, which is close to City Hall, like on the same street as City Hall, with like London City Hall. And so normally in London, we try not to organize marches. We're prepared for them, but we don't actually initiate them. And so we organize a protest, and then if it evolves into a march, we lead the march, sort of. That makes sense.
I see. So did you march?
Yes, we did march, and we actually marched quite a long route. It was surprisingly very long, and we didn't plan it exactly to be as long as it was, but it sort of turned into that because of the way the police directed us. And so we marched quite a few streets of downtown London, but then also on the other side of the river, and then back over the bridge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you have somebody taking videos, I hope.
Yeah, we do have a lot of people take videos, but then we also had quite a few photographers there. And yeah.
Now I see that you're not all in the same school and not necessarily all in the same grade either. Let me see. Audrey, I think you may be the youngest. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm 13 right now. I'm turning 14 in a few days. So as far as I know, I am the youngest person here.
Uh-huh. What would be the youngest person in the march? What age range did you have?
We actually had like we had from people who are probably in their 80s to infants coming because it was multi-generational. I saw a lot of people like carrying their babies in strollers and toddlers like holding signs up, and it was nice to see, as well as the older generations were very much involved. They had signs that were quite funny, like "I want grandchildren" and stuff like that. And it was nice to see that they do care about what happens after they're passed.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty nice.
Okay, well, it certainly is encouraging. As one of the elders, I am now 88. I certainly feel I take heart from the fact that there will be people like you who are going to stay around and do the rest of the work that has to be done to save the world. Bless you. Okay, Jasmine, tell me about you. You're, did you say grade 11?
Yes, grade 11 student at Saunders Secondary School. So the only one from my school in the group, I guess. And I started striking around May or June of last year, and I met some of these wonderful ladies, as well as some others who have now gone on to university, who left the protesting up to us.
Now, when people go on to university, do they stay in touch with you? And are there, do they continue doing things at the university level? I'm not aware of much that's gone on here in Toronto at the university level, but
we keep in touch with a lot of the organizers who have gone to university, and I know a lot of them are working within their new cities with the students to organize strikes, especially with their experience, and the more hands on deck, the better protests usually go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Freyja, tell me, let's see, you're in grade 12, did you say?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What are you studying?
Well, right now I'm taking the courses I really like are math and science, and so next year I want to go into environmental sciences. I think.
You're going into a university. Have you got plans for that? You
A little bit, not much,
do?
but I'm thinking environmental sciences.
Mm-hmm. I bet you there must be a booming department in every university now, programs in environmental science, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, okay. Well, good. That's high time. I'm really pleased that there are a lot of people interested in this. So now, I'd kind of like to know how the day went. Do you guys have speeches, or do you have music, or what all goes on in how long does it take? What happens when you have a meeting, a Friday for Future meeting?
So I guess it varies depending on the protest. So we have weekly strikes on Fridays, and normally at them we just hold signs and protest. Sometimes we have music just to like jazz it up a bit. Sometimes we don't. And then when we actually organize a very big protest with a lot of like Londoners, or when we organize a student protest, it changes a bit. That means we might have speeches. At the last strike we did. And sometimes people also read poetry. Not often. I know our friend Hinal Rajani from Reimagine Co. really likes poetry, so we're actually even thinking of maybe like doing a poetry slam related to the climate crisis. And then also, yeah, so people read speeches. Sometimes we play music. At the last strike, I think people had music while we were marching, like at the location, even like the people who weren't marching kept music. And then also we have drummers who come.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, we don't hire them, but they're just nice enough.
They're doing it for fun. Uh-huh. Now, have you met much opposition? Are there people who say you should be back in school, behave yourselves?
We definitely get a lot, especially when we do make press. You can see comments below saying stuff about either denying climate change or telling us to go back to school. We've had some funny ones too, which at least we can get a laugh out of. Most of it we don't take personally. We understand where they're coming from is a place of ignorance. They aren't as educated about climate change and the effects it would have. And there's really no reason that they should be taking it out on us. But that's just the way it is. For some reason in North America specifically, climate change is treated like a belief system, which is insane. Like, it's, do you believe in climate change or not? Which is crazy since it's a scientific fact that there's tons of studies to back up for. And I know Greta Thunberg was talking about how in Sweden and other places in Europe, it's just treated as a scientific fact. I think it's pretty unique to North America that it is a belief system.
Well, I understood that it was certainly true in the U.S., and I thought it was only in the U.S. I guess I'm a little surprised when you say that it's also in Canada, that you encounter people who also treat it as an ideology or something in Canada. I wonder why.
We do have a lot of people. We've even had people who come up to. I've had people who've come up to me and tell me climate change is a conspiracy theory, while protesting. I've had people come up to me and tell me that climate change could be solved if we use like incandescent light bulbs. There's of course people who might not be mentally like stable, who come up to us, but there's also a lot of people who comment like on articles we're in. We made the front page the other day for our climate protest, and there was at least like 32 comments calling us like the rise of democratic socialism and little Marxists, and saying that climate change is stupid and that these kids shouldn't be protesting because they're just trying to skip school. And then we also got in another article on I think it made second page or third page, with a bunch of students striking, and it also had quite a long series of comments. There's also a lot of people who have written letters in. The other day, someone wrote in a letter about the article on us, saying that if we could just learn how to use better lawnmowers, the climate crisis would be solved.
That's one of the very entertaining ones we get.
It's really
I don't get it. What about lawn?
I don't get it either. Yeah, they thought they explained very, very deeply in the article their opinions on how certain lawnmowers are better, and if you use a 2-stroke lawnmower, you're destroying the environment, which isn't necessarily wrong. It's just not the way to make systematic change.
You know what? I have a new preoccupation, a new cause that I've just invented. I haven't shared it with anyone yet. So maybe I should go meet this lawnmower person. We can work something out, because I have it in for lawns. I've been very interested recently in research on the impact, the importance of planting more trees. I think we need 1 trillion more trees. And the question is where to put them. And so I've been doing research a little bit, as far as I can, on where's a good place to plant trees. Well, apparently the Arctic is about the worst place to plant trees. There's this albedo effect, and there may be another reason why the trees are maybe helping the decomposition in the soil. And the main thing, the outcome, of course, is that it's a bad thing for the permafrost. It tends to quicken the melting of the permafrost. Well, then if you don't plant them in the Arctic, where are you going to plant them? I think, besides which is a lot of work to take people out to the top of a mountain to plant trees and take them back to water them and weed them, which is necessary. But if we could just do a little bit more in cities, it would be great. So my theory is that everybody should get rid of your lawns and plant forests in the front yard or the backyard or both. So, but I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the lawnmower, as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my new cause. Now tell me what your cause is, because if you are saying you want people to do more for climate change, do you have specific demands of things that you expect to have? Do you have a list of things that you can check off and say, yeah, they've done this one, now let's go on to the next one? Or is it just sort of general?
I think we could all give a pretty in-depth answer on that. For me, I guess climate crisis has like climate justice, but then it also has climate science. So for climate science, we do have even just for our striking group, we have like local demands and provincial demands and national demands. And then for the national demands, I sort of work like we have a big network of climate strikers nationally. And like a national like council of just like kids. The other day was actually quite funny because our group got blocked by the Minister of Climate Change and Environmental and the Environment. I think her name is Catherine McKenna. She blocked us on Twitter, and it's just like a peaceful group of.
She did what on Twitter?
She blocked our group of climate activists on Twitter, even though we're just a group of teenagers. So that was funny.
Blocked you?
Yes. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was quite.
Blocked you?
Yeah, she blocked us. But that's besides the point. Basically, our group of.
No, it's not beside the point. Yeah. This is terrible. I want to hear more. Tell me what Catherine McKenna did.
Yeah. So I don't run the Twitter page, and I don't condone everything they say on the Twitter page because they do swear. But it's because a lot of students are annoyed that a lot of politicians aren't acting on climate science, but nothing they do is like horribly obscene or anything or worth blocking someone over, especially since it's just like we're not threatening violence over anything. We're just like they call politicians out on their like climate inaction. So yeah, she blocked them on Twitter. Climate Strike Canada. It's a group of teenagers. It's just like 16 to 19-year-olds, 15 to 19-year-olds. They're all pretty peaceful. But yeah, we got blocked on Twitter.
Boy, listen, that is bad news for her. I mean, in an election campaign, you don't block anybody. You try to pretend you're friends to as many people as you can, even people who can't vote yet. And this sounds to be like very unwise planning on her part. I'll if I have a chance, I'll let her know.
We've put together an algorithm that basically calculates each country's. It's quite complex, and I don't know how to do it. One of them knows how to do it. A bunch, like there's a team who do it. It's just like students though, and it's an algorithm that calculates the reduction in greenhouse gases for each country. So we have we're still it's still kind of in the works, but we're basing national demands around that. And a lot of them include stuff on UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. But then also they include like stuff on how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that's like national demands. Provincially, we just want more education on climate change, and also, of course, initiatives. The provinces don't really control a lot besides education and healthcare. And then locally, we right now in London, we're sort of pushing for free bus passes, which a lot of people have been saying isn't economically feasible. And it actually is economically feasible. It would just require changing a lot of stuff. And then also more bike lanes, which is definitely necessary.
Another thing I could bring up.
Has any place, I know there are places in Europe that do have free buses and so on. And does that make much difference in terms of people get out of their cars and start riding buses or not? Do you know how much success they have with that?
So it does give them more incentive, of course. And I feel like a lot of students in London struggle because like we want to take the bus, but it's like $2.75 each way, even for students. And you have to get like 6 bus passes. It's annoying. But also I think that like if you give students and like everyone more incentive to do it. Also, like for example, in like Malaysia, they have like light rail, and in London we're trying to transition towards a bus rapid transit system. There's a lot of debate over that and whether that's a good idea. Might be better to do another solution, but no matter what, we do need to improve our public transportation.
I'm afraid, Jasmine, I interrupted you. You were about to say something. What did I cut off?
Yeah, no problem. It was just that another thing, especially in Ontario, is the carbon tax debate. I know that it would be on a believe, a federal policy that would be put in place, but due to our current provincial politicians, there is now information on all gas tanks in Ontario. Legally, they have to put information smashing against carbon tax, which...
Oh yeah, they have stickers or something.
Yeah, it's stickers
Ford,
on every gas pipe or every gas pump, and I believe there's like there's a $500 fine every time or every day that it's not on a pump. And I think it's spreading some information that is not necessarily correct and not seeing all points of it. Carbon tax, 80% of civilians will get more money back on their refund than they'll actually end up paying. And it's really, the carbon tax is put into place to hold companies and the 1% responsible, which is why our conservative provincial government isn't a fan of. So I think it's ridiculous to have put your political opinions at, like, put a law that your political opinions have to be placed everywhere where a lot of people commonly attend. I'm just thinking, like, imagine how much hate, like, prime ministers or presidents would have gotten had they put liberal messaging throughout common places that regular civilians attend. I think that would have gotten a lot of hate, and I don't think we're pushing back enough against these stickers. I think carbon tax would be very beneficial because 71% of the emissions from climate change is because of 10 corporations, and I think it's due time that we hold these corporations responsible.
I totally agree. Now, what if you made up stickers of your own, or get somebody with deeper pockets than teenagers usually have to pay for stickers? I'm suggesting that somebody make alternative stickers to put on gas pumps.
I do have a couple. They aren't super informative stickers. It just says tax carbon, get refund, save the planet, repeat. And they're huge stickers. I've been putting them up around town, and I know a couple of people, even at the protest, were wearing them on their shirts. And then they also come with little pamphlets that say the same thing on the front and then have more information about what carbon tax really is on the back. And just going around to doing that. A couple people have suggested that I put them on actual gas pumps, except that is vandalism of private company property, which isn't a great thing and is illegal. But
I think people might forgive you. How about it? That's actually one of the things that people have done in certain countries when they're organizing big, orange revolutions, as they used to call them. I know that in Serbia, when they were trying to get rid of Milosevic, the young people called Otpor created stickers, which they couldn't do in public very well because they would get arrested. But they could slip around in private and at night and put stickers all over the place. And it turned out to be a very popular move. It probably paved the way for their success in getting rid of Milosevic. So I'm all for stickers.
Yeah.
I will contribute $50 to the sticker campaign if you would like to.
That sounds nice. The only thing is, so there's sort of two big groups. Well, there's many big groups on the climate crisis and, like, protesting it. There's the Fridays for Future movement, and there's the Extinction Rebellion. And there's sort of a slight differentiation between those. The Fridays for Future movement was founded by Greta Thunberg, like the 16-year-old in Sweden. And it's more, it's the Extinction Rebellion is different because it's more like into rebellion and, like, doing acts that might not necessarily be legal, but still like have to do with the climate crisis. Whereas Fridays for Future is more like peaceful student acts, and it's more
Well,
like
as far as I know, the student strike thing is much more popular, isn't it? I do think I remember seeing films, a video or something of an Extinction Rebellion thing in England, but I'm not too familiar with any of them in North America. Uh, what am I missing?
So there are branches of Extinction Rebellion in North America. There's even one in London here. The only difference is that there are less students and more adults here. In Britain, and in the United Kingdom, there's a lot more. It's got a bigger presence, and it's more active. Here, it's really less, and it's more the Fridays for Future movement in Canada. I don't know necessarily why that is. I think it's maybe that I don't know if the British police are more lenient, or just kids are more scared. I think there's just a better climate of Extinction Rebellion. Like there's a better, like they're doing better over there. Whereas here it's more like peaceful protesting and less civil
I
disobedience.
wasn't aware that the Extinction Rebellion thing was
Like it's
violent. I mean,
it is non-violent. It's just it's not everything they do is necessarily legal. It's a rebellion.
Okay. Well, I kind of like your approach a little better for the for the time being. Yeah. Okay. Now, you have. Would you say that most of the opposition that you encounter, is it really political or is it something else? I've heard that that the people who are most anti-Greta Thunberg are men, and that women are not that way. But there are a lot of men just can't stand her, and I wonder if you see that hostility transferring into your movement. Of the people who go on the Fridays demonstrations, are you mostly girls, or is it equally distributed? And in terms of the people who give you a bad time out there, who are they? Are they males?
We are very much predominantly female in the youth department as much as organization goes, but definitely during the protests, we are very 50-50. We tend to see more youth females at the protests, whereas it's equal between young adult and adult males and females. And yeah, a lot of men are very much the opposers of our cause. Not men in general. We have a lot of good men that really support us, but most of the time it is, and I don't want to bring like gender into it. It's mostly men that definitely have very much inferior tendencies, where they get their information off of non-reliable sources simply because they want to oppose something and they want leverage towards it.
I think that's sort of an interesting question. The only thing is, like, you could kind of go either way. As you can see, all of us here on this interview today are female, but we do have guys who organize. And like, for example, at the protest, like 5 of my friends who are guys came, and the adults I organized with, 2 of them are guys. Like, I don't know if there's as much of misogyny in the climate crisis. I know that a lot of our cynics might be male, but we also do have female cynics, so I don't know if it's necessarily a sexist thing.
Can you notice any difference in what they talk about, or what kinds of objections they face when are there women who yell at you or not?
We've actually, the interesting thing about climate change deniers is we never see them. We just have them online. We've seen a few. Yeah, a lot of internet trolls. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so it isn't that there are guys out there yelling at you?
No, not many. The few who come up to us are either, like, obviously, no offense, like crazy, but and then also, like, we had a few at the last one who I heard there were people holding up anti-Semitic abortion signs. I don't know how the two are correlated, but yeah, and I don't know what gender. I don't think really there's any gender bias in it. In the mix.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just equal.
And you've all had pretty much the same experience. Is that true of you, Jasmine, and Freyja?
Oh, you go.
You all agree?
Yeah, I think it's more women when it comes to just the every Friday march, but that could just be based off of who we reach and not necessarily because of gender. It just happens to be those people have heard about it and those people were available on those days. And a lot of, especially our youth organizers, are female. And according to their screen names, a lot of the angry commenters have male screen names, which, if you want to relate it back to gender, could just be based off of confidence. And also, usually, not to generalize, but most people opposing us are of the conservative political view. And I think conservative people usually lean more towards white males, just based off of equality fights, like fighting for equality. But not to say that the climate, like, I think there's tons of very capable, great men working with us and coming out to the strikes as well. And we're very grateful to have them too.
Yeah, to add to that, the weekly strikes are definitely more females there usually, but there are males too. And then there has been like men who have walked by and said, like, you're wasting your time, this isn't worth it, like, you're not going to do anything. But there's also people of both genders who just walk by and give you judgmental looks as if they don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I have had a couple, and they were men. That could just be, again, my experience and who was walking by at the time, trying to explain what politics were to me. Like, I haven't researched it myself. And we're talking about if you, basically assuming what party I would be voting for, even though I am not legally able to vote as well. And then trying to explain how strategic voting works to me, even though I've definitely heard enough of that.
Okay. What about the officials in schools? I believe that Montreal had, because Greta was coming, they closed all the schools and some of the businesses, and I don't know, they made it an official day where it was just fine to go join the march. Have you had that kind of support from the school system, from your teachers, or do you have, what kind of attitudes do most of your teachers have toward this?
Well, a lot of our strikes aren't actually skipping school. The weekly ones are from 3 to 5. But for the global ones, when we do miss a bit of school, most of the teachers are very positive towards it and encourage you to go and take part, I find.
So,
Yeah. You can go.
Okay, sorry. So at my school, what I found originally when we first started doing the strikes, when I the first day I did it with Mika, I could only afford to do it on my spare, which is kind of bad of me. Like, a spare is when you don't have class. But I all the other times I just had too much classwork that I would have failed if I had missed. But then eventually we changed it, I think sometime this year, to changing the times. So instead of striking all Friday, the whole day, which is what we were doing, we changed it to 3 to 5 p.m. So we don't strike all day, which made it a lot easier, I think, on all of us.
And got a lot more people out to the strikes as well, because a lot of parents were not okay with skipping school.
Yeah, but have there been people who really have gotten trouble in the sense of missing exams and jeopardizing their marks and their ability to complete their requirements? Does this happen, or do most of the teachers try to make it easy for you to make up exams or whatever?
No, I don't think at all. Most the only for example, like this Friday we had the strike with 3,000 people. It was on a PD day, so there was no school anyway.
Oh.
And then the Friday before that, it was we only missed 30 minutes of school. And I think when you miss 30 minutes of school, your teachers can't really do enough in that 30 minutes for you to like fail a whole school year. If that makes sense. It might adversely affect your grade, but like such a small percentage that it's really insignificant. And I think the point of the climate strikes is that we're basically saying that our education is pointless if we don't solve the climate crisis, because then we're all going to have such a horrendous future. But I have found in schools, like, for example, I've talked to like and we've also had a lot of communication. The other, like, the adults I organize with together, we've been contacting like the school board and trying to figure stuff out. And so we have had a few people who have tried to help us out. And currently I'm actually organizing a climate thing to help like with the grade 10 education for climate science. So we're gonna figure that out. But I found when I talked to my school administration, they weren't really they would let me put up posters as long as it wasn't a walkout, as long as we weren't walking out of class. And then we weren't allowed to put up posters. We're not allowed to put anything on the announcements. But if it's like not a walkout, it's after school, they were a bit more lenient. But pretty much it's not like they're helpful. And if you if you do go to the strike, you get an absence. Like you're not marked like you're present.
Now,
Which
what
does
about your classmates? Are there presumably there are a lot of classmates who won't join you? I presume the majority of them won't join you. What do they say? Do you have arguments with them, or what goes on?
Well, my English teacher actually lets me do announcements on the strikes in front of my class to just like not advertise them, but tell them what's happening, give them updates, because a lot of them don't know. And a lot of the kids that don't want to do it, like, it's their choice, but they do really like to get into arguments. But the thing is, it's kind of obvious that they don't really exactly educate themselves properly on what they're talking about, and it's more just like them opposing what me and my other friends who are also very passionate about it are saying, and then trying to use other ideologies to prove that. So I'll talk about like London's emissions statistics, and they'll like bring up something completely foreign to the topic that we're talking about, and like I understand, but I kind of wish that they're allowed to have their own opinion, but I kind of wish that they would just, leave it be.
Do you think that mostly their information is based on what their family believes and argues, that's what they've heard at home, or are some of them independently opposing you?
I really think that because most of the time when these people are talking to me about it, their family doesn't really bring it up, and that's really where the ignorance starts towards it, because their family doesn't talk about it, and that's their choice because it is a serious topic to talk to your children about. But I can find that they're getting a lot of their information off of the internet and social media via like meme pages, where the entire objective of the information is to almost mock or speak illy of the cause. So I feel like it's not where the information is coming from, and more the absence of information. That's really...
What about your classes? I mean, don't the your science courses, surely you must be getting good information in school, I would hope.
No.
No, really?
No, our teachers barely even talk about it at Beale, or at least in the grade 9 courses, which is understandable.
No, it's not. It's very understandable.
In Ontario, I think I can, in Ontario, we learn about climate science in grade 10. So that would make sense why Audrey hasn't really learned about it. But the thing about how we learn about it is it's very scientific. It's taught in science class. but they don't stress the urgency of it, even though the science shows that it's like imminent. And they're trying to change that. I've listened to like strikers across like the world, and they I was just watching a video the other day of a striker in India, and she was talking about how in her classes in science they also don't stress the urgency of climate change. They give you the basic facts, and I remember being taught about like greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect like since I was little, but I never really understood that like that's what's destroying the world and that it's like imperative we act on it. Which I think Greta Thunberg somehow managed to like really focus in on that and do more research on it, where I really should have. But I think we're taught about it, but we're not really taught that, like, we're taught about so many world issues and it's great that we're taught about world issues. We're really not taught enough about them, but even still, but we're just not taught. It's more like it's seen as if it's just like another thing, like, oh, like acid rain, climate change, water. It's all, and like no one really stresses, oh, this is actually like affecting people.
I find they kind of talk about it how they teach history, like here are the facts, here are the dates, here's some statistics, but they don't talk about it like it's an urgent issue. Like Jen was saying, they teach it like it's history, like, oh, here's World War I, this happened here, but instead it's climate change. Oh, the great, like the ocean garbage patch happened here. The Industrial Revolution started this climb in carbon emissions now at this point. And I think people are trying to change it from teaching it like it's history mixed with science, where they're teaching the facts and what has happened, to teaching it like it is an issue of modern day.
Well, do any of the teachers know better? Do you suppose there's any kind of constraint on them that they mustn't? That anybody, are the teachers afraid to tell you that, yeah, you better panic because it's really something to panic about?
I think for everything teachers teach us, well, of course they have to teach us the curriculum, but for climate science, it's more like they teach us, I'm not exactly sure how to say this. They can only teach us like what they teach. They can't really tell a class of like 26 grade 10ers to panic, you know? It doesn't really
I would. Well, I mean,
well,
the
yeah.
beauty is that Greta Thunberg herself says panic, and she's right, you know. It's only when you really get disruptive that you can make some difference, because there is this habitual thing of people just doing routine things, and life will go on the way it always has unless something really extraordinary happens. Oh boy, you got a good yawn. Time for you to go to bed, but I have another couple of questions. If you got homework to do. Yeah, you want to say something, Freyja?
Yeah, so actually at my school, in our grade 10 science unit, we covered climate change pretty well and in-depthly, and we talked a lot about the detrimental consequences that we would be seeing in the next couple of years. But one thing we didn't really talk about was how they knew the things that they knew and the evidence they had for the facts they were presenting to us. So I think a lot of kids didn't actually understand where the information we were learning from came from. And so it didn't affect them as much. And that's a problem. And it was just something else to learn, and it didn't really stick with them over time.
That's really interesting. My school had the opposite effect. Instead of being explained like the detrimental effects and like how it was going to affect us, we just learned about like proxy records and like carbon sinks and like methane and like how it all works. Which I guess is like a different like way our schools are based, but still, yeah, we learned the exact opposite. Like we learned all of the science and not the actual like way it's like gonna hurt us. Yeah.
Now you mentioned that there's some coordinating committee for all of Canada. Is that right? All of the people holding Fridays for Future activities, all in different cities, you have some connection with each other and plan things together. How does that work?
Yeah, so it works through a messaging app, and it's basically limited mostly to youth climate activists. There's a few other people on there, but yeah, and so we do national calls and also like provincial calls, just video calls, same as we're doing now on Zoom. yeah, it's just a good way for us to connect and figure things out. We try and contact influencers and try and get them on board. Like, for example, Billie Eilish, singer, just did a video about climate change. And that was actually #1 on trending on YouTube a few days ago. I think it was yesterday. And so yeah, we just try and get, like, it's basically just a big thing of an organization. Like, we figure out how, we have a website. We figure out how the website mechanics are working. We figure out how all the social media is working. We talk to each other, like, bounce ideas off each other, figure stuff out, basically.
Well, is there any effort to get the thing to spread, to reach into schools and towns where it doesn't exist yet, to help build the movement? Is there a kind of a missionary activity going on?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly missionary, but we are trying to get, a big thing is a lot of Indigenous activists and like First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people in Canada have been doing climate advocacy for such a long time, but it's hard to, like, exactly spread to their communities, especially since a lot of them are, like, don't have internet. But we are trying to get more Indigenous communities in, and we're trying to get them protesting. And they already have been for decades. But we want them to be part of the Fridays for Future movement too. And so, like, as you saw, I don't know if you saw, but in Montreal, many of the climate activists on the front, like, lines of the strike were First Nations and Métis.
No, I didn't see that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, what
And
about
in Montreal, there's a lot of Métis activists too. Yeah.
spreading it into other communities, both in terms of other towns and other schools, but also other age ranges? And I think there's more effort that Greta Thunberg is putting on about getting adults to, walk out of their jobs for the day and so on. Is that an organized campaign or not?
It's not exactly for the September 20th to 27th week of action, which just passed. The it was supposed to be multi-generational, and it was supposed to be you strike your work or your school. I don't know if there's an intentional effort to get adults too, but we do want it to be multi-generational. We don't want this to just be students. The point of it being students is that for a while no one was acting, and so students were the first to act. But we do want everyone to be included. And I think you kind of really see that, like, even with our strike we had in London the other day, everyone is there.
You saw more age range. That's great. I would love to support you in any way I can. We have this website called tosavetheworld.ca. And the latest thing that we're doing on it is we have a section called Global Projects. And people who have any kind of project in the world that would be aiming to reduce the risk of one of these 6 major global threats can have a page in our website. So I'd love to just give you a London, Ontario Fridays for the Future page, or even a Canada Fridays for the Future page, or whatever, so that you could put a little article about what you're doing and the links to different groups that support it, and then a comments column so you can discuss it and post things and share, like on Facebook or Twitter. So if you're interested, I'd be happy to organize that for you, or talk to you about getting it going. Would you like that?
That would be very generous of you. Yeah, we might. Yeah, I think we'd have to talk about that, but that might be a great idea for us.
Okay. Would you other ladies be interested? I mean, is that an okay thing for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. All right. Well, I don't want to keep anybody up later than I should. Some of you still have homework to do. Is that right?
Yeah. Thank you, Metta. Thank you very much for talking about it.
Well, it's sweet of you to do this for me, and I'll send you the links to it so you can have a look. And I hope you have a good evening and many more Fridays for the Future. Hooray for you. Blessings. Okay.
Thank you so much, Metta.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 This conversation is one of the weekly series Talk About Saving the World, produced by Peace Magazine and Project Save the World. Please visit our website at tosavetheworld.ca, where you can sign the Platform for Survival, a list of 25 public policy proposals that, if enacted, would greatly reduce the risk of 6 global threats to humankind. Come back next week for another discussion of a serious global issue.